Good morning, afternoon, and evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back for another Bomber game reaction video. Ah, boy, this one stung, not gonna lie. 23-19 loss for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers against the Ottawa Redblacks, the Drew Brown Ottawa Redblacks, that is. Damn, this one sucks. So, a lot of takeaways from this. But let's go through the game and just kind of go with it in a chronological order, I guess. So in the pregame, Adam Bighill is back in the lineup. Big addition for the Bombers. He was definitely a key piece missing on the defensive side of things. It's one of those things where Adam Bighill is a guy where, unfortunately, absolutely love Adam Bighill as a player. Sometimes he can be really, really prone to injuries, and that's definitely been an issue. However, he's back, so not to worry in that aspect. When he is healthy, he's excellent, really. And still really was a key piece in that defense. And one was kind of one of the few first pieces to actually, of the defense to kind of activate and get going in this game, just because, they're a little out to lunch early on. And so, but then two key things missing here. Brady Oliveira, Kenny Lawler, both of them out. That stings. Oliveira's out game one, out one game, which should be just this past game that just happened. But he should hopefully be back for this next game. I hope so. It really sucked to really not have him two straight games. Kenny Lawler, we know he's on the six game injured list, fractured arm. That just sucks. However, Wheatfall goes in for his place, and honestly, I think Wheatfall does about just as much as he could. Drew Brown gets a start for the Ottawa Redblacks. I'd been saying a while that I really, really believed in Drew Brown last year. I was a big fan of Drew Brown. As a backup quarterback, and it doesn't shock me that he gets the start here for the Red Blacks, and that he finally is able to kind of start to write his own destiny as kind of a starting quarterback in Ottawa, and I think they got a good quarterback in that regard. Going into the first quarter, though, we'll start going through the game now. We really give up way too much offense right out of the gate, and this is right out of the gate. It really starts to seem like, oh my goodness, this is just a continuation of the Montreal game, where it was like, come on, guys, a week we can't figure this out. Celestin Haba goes down, and I say an expletive. Just not good. Really not good. Not ideal at all. And he would not return in this game. There'd be an offside penalty against the Bombers. And then we would give up even more yardage. We'd get an offside. We would go offside again. And then Ward hits the 12-yard field goal for Ottawa, making this 3-0 Redblacks. Bombers would then push it a little bit, and then they'd punt, and there would just be another good punt by Sheehan. I think this was now his second punt of the game, because I don't write down absolutely everything. But another good punt by Sheehan. And Sheehan, honestly, I've been very, very impressed with his punting this year. I think it's been a massive improvement from last year. And so I have no problem keeping him at the punting position with us. But then, Celestin Haba goes out, and Adams comes in, and right on this play, he gets a sack for the Bombers.
Get to him! You got him! Yeah! Yeah! There we go. And it's Adams. He went in for Celestin Haba. Backup's getting sacks. Good stuff.
Awesome play. Good. Can't ever complain about a sack when it goes your way. So, but then offense would then kind of get back on the field. They get going a bit, and Wolitarski drops a really easy one. And Wolitarski is one of those guys who so bad, it seems like he's being confined in that sense of that there have been games where he's played really, really well, but he hasn't gotten the ball enough. Then there's been games where he's gotten it maybe one more time than he normally would, and he's kind of fumbled that one, and so then they wouldn't give him the ball again. And it's just, this guy to me is like, Wolitarski is a very, very capable receiver who just always, to me, it's like if you watch wrestling and you watch that wrestler that is just always just barely away from the brass ring, but they can never just quite grab it. To me, it's like he kind of reminded me of Samoa Joe in WWE, in the sense of he was always, close in that main event sort of picture, but never was able to get the gold. Obviously, I know in AEW he won the world title, all that sort of stuff, but I rest my case in that regard. I really, really believe in Drew Wolitarski. Love Wolitarski. But then Devontae Dedmon would get a great punt return. And this was something we would have to be worried about. Devontae Dedmon is incredible. Seriously, as a returner, as a receiver, he is a deadly piece that the Ottawa Redblacks have. Obviously, 2 years ago, won Rookie of the Year, went to the NFL, spent some time with the Miami Dolphins, and then back down in the CFL. And Ottawa was able to get him back, kind of similar to the way that we got Streveler back. And he's been very, very capable for them. The Ottawa Redblacks would then start pushing it down a bit, and then Dustin Crum in the short yardage would get the first touchdown of the game for the Ottawa Redblacks.
No! Oh.
Oh no.
Drew Brown threw them down. He threw them down. He threw them down.
Crum with the touchdown conversion is good. 10-0 Redblacks. Not good. Bombers would then go back on offense again, and Wheatfall drops it. This is now, and I scream, stop dropping the ball, because now it's a few times in just the first quarter.
Come on, Zach. Good guy. No! Stop dropping it! I don't know what to say. Stop dropping the ball.
Wheatfall with a drop there. I was not happy. Not even necessarily just with him. Just in general, it seemed like our receivers were just dropping balls. However, Wheatfall would then really start to get going later in this game. And I was very, very happy what I would eventually see from him. But before that, Willie Jefferson would get his first sack of the season.
Yeah!
First sack of the season for Willie Jefferson. That was something that I saw absolutely none of last game, was any real pressure on the pass rush. No sacks last game. Even though there were parts of this game I wish they would have done a little bit more, they were able to get a few sacks, and they were able to put some pressure on Drew Brown in some situations and force him to throw it out of bounds. So I think the D-line, despite not being perfect, despite having injuries, I think they played a better game than they did last week. But that would be it for the first quarter. 10-0 Redblacks going into the second quarter. Not a good start. I hate getting shut out any sort of quarter. But we go into the second quarter, and at this point, this is when Dietrich Nichols, right near the start, gets a bit shaken up, and he gets taken out and, kind of examined on the sidelines. But then there would be a good play, but we would drop the ball again. However, it's defensive pass interference against the Ottawa Redblacks.
Zach!
Oh! No! God damn it! Stop dropping the ball!
Flag!
And now
flag,
they picked it up.
Flag! Yeah!
Oh, we are so lucky.
Bombers coming out a little bit lucky there in the sense of just, again, another instance of us dropping the ball, but defensive pass interference. So, a little bit of an excuse in that regard. But it is what it is. But then the Bombers finally get a chance to get going and to really kind of write their own destiny and finally get something going in this game. And Clares goes for a throw. Ball gets tipped. Ottawa snags the ball with interceptions. And I don't even know what to say at this point.
No! They did it again! Are you fucking serious? Come on!
We got so lucky that was defensive pass interference before, in that we weren't dealing with an interception, but it didn't really matter because we then threw an interception right afterwards. And you know what, as an O-lineman, as a former O-lineman myself, just in high school football and all that, as a guy who really thinks that the offensive line in so many football games, I'm not even just talking Bombers, I'm just talking in general, do not get the bloody credit where they deserve. They had a rough game tonight. They did. They're always the last to get the fame and the first to get the blame. That's the way the O-line works. but today they didn't have a good game. They gave up more sacks than they should, and there were many instances where Zach Collaros was looking for something, but he just didn't have a pocket to work in. And unfortunately, because of how well their defensive ends were doing in Ottawa at containing, it wasn't even like Zach could scramble left or right to get out of that position. He was just really in a tough spot and just really got to do more in regards to the O-line. But it is what it is. Ottawa would then keep pushing the field. They would take a holding penalty. And then right after, Ward hits a 31-yard field goal, making this 13-0 Red Blacks. Bombers would then drive the field kind of back, goes back and forth just a little bit. But then Castillo would hit a 45-yard field goal and make this 13-3 Ottawa. And I was really glad to see this because 45, not the easiest kick in the CFL, not quite the hardest, but definitely on the harder side of things. And he hit it, and he hit it pretty clean. So he was the only kicker, or at least I'm not sure if what's his name in Montreal had to use it, if Cote. But I know that game one last week between Winnipeg and Montreal was the only game that had the microchipped footballs. After Castillo kind of raised a big issue about it. And then all kickers around the league then started going in this. Actually, Ward was one who was talking about it as well. Lawther there, who is, I believe, vice president of the CFLPA, commented on it. And so right after that, it then became optional. So I guarantee you they weren't using it today. So with Castillo playing as well as he did and just complete money this game with no, not even really that close to missing ever, it brings me a little bit of relief in now believing that, he was right, that it was the microchip and it wasn't just his skills decreasing. So that is at least a little bit relieving in that regard. Dietrich Mickels at this point goes back in. So at that point, now I'm feeling a little bit better. Just like, okay, he's probably not too bad if he's going back in. There'd be an illegal interference penalty on Ottawa. And then the Bombers would finally get their offense going again. And there would be a huge catch for Nick Dembski.
Good blocks. Yeah! That's what we needed. Dembski, let's go. Woo!
Huge pass for Dembski. It was really nice, really refreshing because we had not really gotten much of anything on offense at this point. So I was glad that I could have something to cheer for. The Bombers would keep pushing. There would be a face mask on Collaros, penalty against Ottawa. But we would also take, I believe, a holding at the same time. But because obviously a face mask is a bit more severe than a holding, Bombers get a first down out of that. And then Johnny Augustine, we get the Bombers' first touchdown of the night.
Come on, Johnny! He's in! Yeah! Touchdown, Bombers! Woo!
Now, I haven't looked at the stat sheet, but if memory serves correct, I thought that Johnny Augustine had a pretty good night, all things considered. We weren't really running the ball that much, but I thought for the most part he did, what he could in that regard. Against a pretty good D-line. They were really putting the pressure on. The convert would be good, though. Castillo hits that, making this 13-10 for the Red Blacks. Ottawa then pushes again near the end of the second quarter, hits the field goal. I'm not sure exactly how many yards that is out. I'd have to check, making this 16-10 Ottawa. And actually, you know what? I actually am going to check. He hits it from 34 yards. Yeah, there you go. I'm just checking the score app. 34 yards out, Ward hit that field goal, making it 16-10 Red Blacks going into halftime. So now, normally I wouldn't have a little halftime segment on here, but it was halftime that we learned that the Bombers make an announcement that Celestin Haba, Dietrich Nichols, and Fox would not be returning tonight at that point. So 2 D linemen in a corner, so just, big hit to the defense in that regard. But again, at least a guy like Adams was able to get a sack and was able to show, I think Schmenkel played some time in there. So at least we're able to see something capable from our secondaries, even if they didn't really get much for the rest of the game. Just kind of sucks. But the Bombers are littered with injuries right now. Don't know if there's another team in the league that really is as beaten up and full of Band-Aids as Winnipeg is. But at the end of the day, you can't, 0-2, not a good look. Bombers go into the third quarter. They would push the field. There'd be a good play by Johnny Augustine, and then Zach Collaros gets sacked again. And I'm just, am really starting to get tired and really getting frustrated with how we just could not contain this D-line and get them out and create that pocket for them. The Red Blacks would push. Ottawa takes a holding penalty, and then Ottawa would then punt it, and it would go out of bounds. Yuck. And then the Bombers' offense would get going again, and there'd be a big throw, big pass, and catch for Wheatfall.
Yeah! Go!
Come on, Wheatfall!
Yeah!
Look at that!
Let's go!
All the way down the field. Woo! Awesome stuff.
Big play for Wheatfall. I was glad to see that after what I saw a little bit earlier on that I wasn't that impressed with. But the Bombers would keep that going, and then Chris Streveler would get his first touchdown as a Blue Bomber since 2019.
Come on. He's got it! He's got it! There we go.
Woo!
There we go.
Let's fucking go!
Woo! There we go. Touchdown.
Man, it was nice seeing Streveler get that touchdown. I feel like that's kind of been what it, even though the Bombers have not played a really good first two games, it's been a little bit of it's been nice whenever seeing Streveler on the field and being able to see him back in the blue and gold again, where he belongs. Convert is good, 17-16 for the Bombers. Bombers now have a lead in this game for the first time in the game. Ottawa would then push it down a bit, and they would get a really solid pass. However, O'Shea would challenge it, ruling that it should have been an incomplete pass. This goes off the turf into his hands. Does it? Challenge is successful, as that is exactly what happened. Ball goes off the turf right into the hands. I can understand why the officials on the field thought it was a pass, but it was a good challenge by Coach Osh, and he was able to get that done. Ottawa would then punt, and punter Leon on Ottawa would take a misconduct penalty. Now, I didn't see what this was. I was watching TSN. They didn't show any replay, so I have no idea what that was. If you do know, make sure you guys comment in the comment section down below. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. Obviously, good stuff there. But yeah, no, if you guys seriously know what that misconduct penalty was for, please comment that down below. Very, very curious. And then at this point, Zach Collaros throws another pick. Man, it just... That touchdown versus pick ratio is not looking good. 2 straight games, no touchdown passes for Zach Collaros. Yikes. Seriously, yikes. This is supposed to be the best guy in the league. Number 1, QB1, star, franchise quarterback. Where's this going? It's just not looking great. We go into the fourth quarter. The Bombers would push it once again, and there'd be a big run for Johnny Augustine. And then Collaros gets sacked once again. There'd be some great downfield coverage on the punt, at least. And this would be kind of the second punt in a row of some good coverage. Again, Sheehan, very, very consistent. But at least finally we're getting some good coverage on that and containing Devontae Dedmon, which is at least one asset that can make the Ottawa Red Blacks a dangerous team. So I was glad that we could at least minimize that, even if there's a lot that I was unhappy that we didn't minimize. Ottawa would then really, really start pushing the field. They'd go for it on third down, and they would get really close, but they just barely grabbed that. They would continue on and get themselves a touchdown.
Shotgunning running the ball.
Oh!
No! Damn it!
A Bucks touchdown.
Now, I didn't write this down, but I believe it was Hardy with that touchdown. If it wasn't, then it would have been. Then I think he got one of them for sure. I think that was him though for that one, fourth quarter. Ottawa would go for 2 on this one, as they were looking to increase the lead just a bit more to the point where a Bombers touchdown and conversion wouldn't win the game. It would just tie it, but they don't get it, keeping this at 22-16 in favor of the Ottawa Red Blacks. Bombers would get going once again, and then Patrick Neufeld takes a holding penalty. Just lazy, but hopefully we learn moving forward. Liam Dobson, the very next play, takes a holding penalty. I understand that with how much they were getting beat, that they needed to do that to prevent the sack because they would have lost more yards with the sack than they did the holding penalty. How about just not losing your body position on him? It's one of those things where you gotta get a hold of that chest plate and hold it stiff. Don't let him rip or swim. You can't let him around you like that. But that's what was happening, and so hopefully the O-line is able to figure it out. And if they aren't, I think we need to look at possibly making changes to it. That's hurts me to say that, but I'm not saying blow up the O-line after this game. I'm not. I'm just saying keep a closer eye on it. And make sure if you're going to blame it on the O-line, like, again, if you're going to blame plays on the O-line, make sure it's like, okay, did they get to Calairs quick, or was Calairs sitting in that pocket for like 10 years? Because if he was sitting in that pocket for 10 years and he couldn't find something, then either that's A, on the receivers for not getting open, or B, for Calairs for not scrambling out at that point. But do keep an eye on that O-line. It's worth taking a look at. After both those holding penalties, we go for it again, but Zach Calairs' pocket is collapsing. He's got nowhere to go. He can't go left, can't go right. Those DNs are really making sure that they keep this play contained. And that's exactly what they do, and Calairs goes down, and we're not able to get any drive going. The Bombers would punt, and then let me see. Yeah, Bombers would punt, but then at least they would play pretty well defensively here. They make Ottawa go 2 and out and have to punt themselves. They would, however, punt it all the way down through the end zone, getting the single, making this 23-17. It's probably not what the Red Blacks wanted here, just because they were given the Bomber. Like, ideally, I think they were hoping that would kind of within 5 yards go out of bounds, which, they got close to, but not quite. Just because at that point they would have rather had the Bombers had the field position than getting themselves the point. As they really didn't need it. They just wanted to. They just wanted to keep the Bombers in bad field position, but them getting the point then means that the Bombers move up to the 40. Calairs would then start going and pushing the Bombers offense along, doing well in that regard, at least at that point. This is where I kind of wrote, Wheatfall, is playing well. I thought at this point in the game, he had, started to become a lot better and just a lot more consistent. He had even gotten a long ball down the field that I was very, very happy with. And at this point, this is when, so there had been a lot of rain going on through this game, but this is when the lightning is present. Now it's going to be the delayed game. And man, this sucks for the Bombers right when they got the momentum. This is when the game is delayed. Actually, it's funny, in a CFL Instagram group chat, we had a big debate on not necessarily if this game should have been delayed. I think everyone agreed that it should have been delayed. But regarding the rules of the and the procedures that they have in place for when the game is delayed and when possibly canceling the game. The current procedure, just for those aware, is that if, I believe it's in the third quarter, so someone, if I'm wrong on that, please correct me, but I believe it's in the third quarter or later, or like halfway through the third, it was something like that. Where if the game is delayed because of lightning, not rain, lightning for over an hour, the game is canceled, and essentially whatever the score is at that point, that is the score, which I have a big problem with. And I have a big problem with that, not as and I understand this will obviously come off as like, okay, well, you're the Bombers, you're upset, or obviously going to be upset about that. And is that the reason it brought it to my attention? Yes. However, objectively, I have an issue with that in the sense of that I would have an issue with that even if Saskatchewan lost a game for that. And I bloody hate the Riders. I still have problems with that rule. And maybe that might be a good topic of discussion on Canadian Football Central for a video. I think now that it's kind of being put around everywhere, that might be a good topic. So anyways, that happens for quite a bit. It gets close to the hour mark. But then at that point, that's when it's decided that they're going to resume. So it was 11:15 local time out there in Ottawa when this game resumed, exactly an hour after it had been paused. 10 minutes prior to that, they got 10 minutes for just kind of re-warming up, which is good because one of the point, at least a point that was made in that group chat by someone who actually was on the other side of things from where I am, was making a point that it can be dangerous for players if they're sitting around not doing anything for a while and then going into a high contact sport. Couldn't agree more. That's absolutely correct. And that's why I think it's very, very important that the Bombers do have the Bombers and the Red Blacks. So the CFL, sorry, I guess the CFL does have that 10-minute warm up. as realistically, like even when I was in high school, that was roughly the warm-up that we got before every single game. So pretty standard warm-up, almost a pregame warm-up at that point. I know that obviously in the CFL they would do a lot more than that, but definitely not, at least in my opinion, to the point where it would be unsafe after a 10-minute warm-up. But yeah, so if we're looking here, just want to see where exactly we're at, but almost an hour late, but it resumes. Then there'd be a great pass for Dalton Schoen, first down. Honestly, I was feeling pretty good there because I could tell that because of what it was out there and their D-line still hadn't got really in set yet, that there was a few feet slipping and whatnot, and so Collaros had a little bit more time. But again, that also goes on the precedent of like that also applies to receivers trying to catch a ball that's wet and going to be more slippery naturally. However, there'd be a big pass for Drew Wolotarski.
Oh!
He's got it!
Yeah!
Go! There we go! Wolotarski!
Big pass for Drew Wolotarski, and man, I'm just on this point. I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm just complete nail biter. Like, come on, Zach. Come on, Bombers. Get it done. Third down. This is all the marbles. This is when we need it. Zach Collaros gets sacked again.
Why are they doing
Come on,
this
come
to
on,
us?
come on. Come on, Zach.
Zach! No! No way! Are you serious?
What happened?
Are you serious?
Did he get stopped?
Man, that sucks. And that was the Bombers' chance, in my opinion. That was it, and just Ottawa played some ferocious defense right near the end there, whether it was on second down with the diving block to make sure Dalton Schoen doesn't get it. I don't blame Collaros for throwing that pass. Dalton Schoen was wide open, but he just doesn't have enough speed on it. And honestly, there's not much. That's just a really good defensive play on second down. And on third down, defensive line for the Ottawa Redblacks coming in and just absolute money takes out Zach Collaros. And then the Redblacks would then get possession. The Bombers defense at this point, still trying to keep them in it, do a really, really good job in ensuring the Redblacks go 2-0, and forcing the Ottawa Redblacks to, punt, you'd think. However, when this ball goes back to the punter, Ottawa does a really interesting play here. He actually turns around, runs in the end zone, runs to the far corner, basically killing as much time as possible, and then eventually takes the safety. And this is a really smart play for Ottawa, seriously, because first off, them giving up the 2 points doesn't really matter in the sense of they're at the point where they want to win this game in regulation. Seriously, like punting it realistically, where does the punt put it? Maybe around the 40, but they'd be punting that right away. And then the Bombers would then get it. And whatever the time is on the clock, by him running into the end zone, he's killing much more time. So even though he's giving up the 2 points, realistically, he's going to be ending up in the same field position when it comes to where the Bombers are going to be, except he's killing much more time, giving up the 2 points. 2 points doesn't really matter for Ottawa, as realistically, if the Bombers got going and they got that drive, because of that point they had already given up earlier, it really wouldn't have mattered. They needed to win right then and there. And so Bombers get going, I think 1 or 2 passes in, getting a few first downs, really trying to get as close as they can. And then with 2 seconds left, there's one play left. They go for the Hail Mary, but unfortunately, it's just not enough.
Here we go. Zach, no! Zach, get out! He throws! Into the end zone! No! No! Fuck!
They go for that Hail Mary. It's not enough. Final score, 23-19 Red Blacks, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers go to 0-2 to start this year. Ouch. I'm seriously concerned about this Bomber team now. as, you know, there could have been an explanation for last game in the sense of no one played the preseason, you know, and I was hoping that's all it was. But based on what, and were there things that got better as the game went on? Yes. But you can't figure that out. Like, you got to figure that out for start of the season, seriously. You can't figure that out now. And even then, even though we got better as the game went on, I'm not convinced the Bombers have figured it out. You know, O-line had a bad game. Claire's threw a few picks and didn't throw any touchdown passes. We had guys dropping balls left, right, and center. Seriously frustrating. And defensively, we weren't horrible, but I would hope that we would give up less than 23 points to Ottawa. And at the end of the day, the Bombers, even on drives where they're not able to go and get the touchdown, get the field goal. Get something. Because the problem is there's too many drives where the Bombers are just punting. And it's great in the sense of that Sheehan's playing great. But if Sheehan's playing all the time, then the rest of the team isn't doing their job. That's how that goes. If the punter's always on the field, then my question is, why are you always punting? So, very, very disappointing loss for the Bombers. And let me just take a look at the schedule coming up because, so next week on the Friday, BC versus Winnipeg in Winnipeg. Big matchup in BC, seriously. Even though BC had a rough week 1, I think they have a possibility of winning week 2 against Calgary. I think that'll be a close game. But I think the BC Lions will probably win that. 50 Cent in the building for that. But then they're coming to our barn. And seriously, if we can't get it done against the Red Blacks, I don't know what my confidence is that we can get it done against the Lions. It'll all really depend on how that BC versus Calgary game goes. So hopefully the Bombers are able to figure it out. I'm not necessarily convinced that they can, but let me know what you guys thought of this video, of this game, this disaster that was a game. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe if you have not already. Also, make sure to check out Canadian Football Central. Seriously, just incredible CFL content going on there. We have an interview that had just came out with Micah Alway, over an hour long. Also posted 4 shorts on that. One of them already over 1,000. So thank you guys for just the incredible support there, as we had never really done shorts content before, and seeing the massive success of at least one of them right then and there was just excellent. He talks a lot about all sorts of things. His career going through the years, and even about some NFL talent that he had played with, whether that was Patrick Mahomes, whether that was Baker Mayfield, whether that was him playing against Carson Wentz. There was just a lot of good stuff in that interview. Micah Alway, just an incredible human being, as well as a linebacker for the Calgary Stampeders. So make sure you check that out. And then also remember that this Sunday we are going to have an interview with Jared Brinkman, defensive lineman of the Toronto Argonauts, coming out on Canadian Football Central. That gets recorded on Saturday. So if you have any questions for Jared, make sure you guys drop that in the comment section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.